paralyzed by fear. I'm clutching you so tight, afraid to lose. I retreat more each night. Where is my voice? I've muted myself, and in my shyness, it's you I repel. I will find my way to express my voice. I must find my way to ignite my spark. Find my way to me so we can be we. Find my way. The fractures between us rise into view. I cling to the scraps of the care that falls through. Where is my strength? I've crumbled apart, hiding from the truth. I've shattered my heart, but I will find my way to regain my strength. I must find my way to restore my will. Find a way to me so we can be we. Find my way. Here is this moment to take a chance, to go on alone or grow and advance. I will find my way to express my voice. I must find my way to ignite my spark. Find my way to me so we can be we. Find my way. I will find my way to regain my strength. I must find my way to restore my will. Find my way to me so we can be we. Find my way. Find my way. I'll find my way. Happy Sunday, everybody, and happy Mother's Day to all those folks out there who we should be honoring for our lives. Thank you for joining us on a holiday. No, that's not always an easy thing to do, and I hope you are finding your way to yourself in all the craziness that is this pandemic. For me, as you all know, a few friends said, while I'm sheltered in place, I should start having a show. And never one to shy away from such challenges, I launched the show. We are now at episode 5, believe it or not, and that's not counting the pilot. So last week, we had Tim Lehane, who is a singer, musician, producer. His video is now available on the official Caleb YouTube channel. Check out this event and notes to find the YouTube link. And if you happen to miss that episode, it's a great episode. Go ahead and take a look at the Caleb site and view that. I will say that the episode does post on Facebook, but Facebook does not give me the option to trim the 20-minute lead time that I need to make all the magic happen before we go live at 5 o'clock. So you'd have to scroll ahead for about 23 minutes before the show would actually start on Facebook. Okay, see a few people, more comments. Cool, awesome. Feel free to chat. It will appear on the chat board here, which appears to be working with Restream and Facebook this week, which is fantastic. And as we go along, if you have questions for our guest, please go ahead and put it in the chat and we'll get you some answers. As usual, we'll go from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock for the main part of the show. And then at 6 o'clock is after party. We go for anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour, where we have the opportunity for people to ask questions of our guest and that we can dig deeper into their work. So without further ado, our guest this week is Tyrone Stanford, singer, musician, producer. And Tyrone and I met about, I think 12 years ago. I've told people how I got singing again was I had a lonely December and I wanted to reach out to people who sang. And I hadn't been with a singing group since a mid-bachelor's degree at university. And I'm like, man, I would love that community of singers again. And I happened to see this meetup for karaoke to come up, and I had a bias against karaoke. I kind of thought it was a bunch of sad people singing songs out of tune and drinking beers at some little bar. And I went to this meetup, and it was at this beautiful place called the Down Low. And it was a full underground club and great community around the meetup. And come up on stage all these artists. And man, they blew my socks off. And I wasn't prepared for the King of Kings, the man that blew everybody's socks off, who had their socks already blown off. And that was Tyrone Stanford. And I thought, I want this man to produce me, because if he can sing like that, maybe I could be a better singer for working with him. And Tyrone and I worked for a little while together, and I started making custom karaoke of my own music and performing it and blending it in with other custom karaoke of other artists. And that caught the attention of a student at a school called Expressions in Emeryville. And she decided to shoot a documentary about Tyrone and I's work doing custom karaoke. We're going to watch that documentary a little later in the show. But first, we're going to watch the trailer for that documentary. And here it is.
Some people, that's all they want to do. They want to at least sing one song.
Actually, I'm going to hold off because I didn't activate the audio playback for myself. You guys probably all heard that. I didn't hear it. So hold on one moment.
Some people, that's all they want to do. They want to at least sing one song. They want to make one song. I always wanted to create a CD and have karaoke files on there, so I can just do the whole package. So that was always something I always had in my mind, and I always wanted to help other people to do the same thing.
You're out at karaoke, you hear stuff from every era, every style, and people are excited by it. So you're exposing people across this wide range. Well, why not get your own material in there? And it seems like it's a fundamental location for people to find out about you as an artist.
And that's the trailer for a karaoke creation video that we will be watching a little later in the show. So without further ado, I'd like to bring Tyrone on. He has dialed in on his very first Zoom meeting today. Oh, actually, before that, I wanted to show some slides of Tyrone. Tyrone can't see any of this because he's on his phone. But here's some pictures of Tyrone's dynamic performances. Not only did he perform at karaoke bars all around the Bay Area, but at private parties. Also, he built a community, a connection around him within those karaoke places, and really inspired people to take a chance and explore their voice and to expand their abilities. There's Jai and Sal. There's me working the KJ board. That's Tyrone at the down low. And this seems to be a private party there. This was a birthday party. And you can just see how in all these pictures when Tyrone's performing, everybody's standing still. And he's just a blur of motion and energy. Quick story. We were at a karaoke place called Pandora. Someone was having a birthday in one of the private rooms. And then they have a main stage. And Tyrone had signed up in both the main stage and the private room. And he was bouncing back and forth, singing songs in both locations. And I went out to the public room and he was just busting it and literally busting it. The entire stage was splitting under his feet and he could not see this. He was so in the moment. And I was laying on my back, holding the stage together, the two pieces from opening up and swallowing him whole for about 3 minutes. And he finishes like, "What are you doing down there?" I'm like, "Keeping you alive." Great times. Fun, very fun memories. So, hey, Tyrone, welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Happy Mother's Day.
Definitely happy Mother's Day to everybody who is here and listening in. And Tyrone, we were just doing some testing earlier, and I said, "Can you do one more test?" And he's like, "I'm talking to my mom." I'm like, "No problem. I understand." And I'm going to call my mom right after this session. I swear, Mom. It just took a lot of setup time today. I will call you. So you are in Emeryville.
Yep.
And I used to live just across the train tracks from Tyrone in Emeryville. So he would come over to my home studio where you saw in what you saw in the karaoke creation video and would produce there. And then some years later, I moved to Marin, and he would take a bus all the way from Emeryville to Marin. And he would get up and going in the morning. I'd go off to work, and then I would come back for lunch and check how things were going, then go back to work and come back, and we'd wrap up for the day and editing vocals. I think the first work you did was mastering the old Audio Terrorist tracks, right?
Yes.
And then from there, we really hit it off and started working on new material and reworked a lot of the stuff that was being done for the Caleb album and got that re-edited, tightened up. And these days with the software, you can take as many vocal takes as you want. So it's very tempting to take take after take after take. And in the past, with my recordings, pretty much what got down on tape was what got down on tape. It got processed and then off it would go out into the world. But once the technology got there, we would take all these takes and I'm like, well, I could do that a little better. I could do that a little better. Oh, that's a cool little bit. And then Tyrone's job was to find all those cool little bits and try to put them all together in a way that was cohesive and made sense. And there would be days in which I'd come back and he'd be listening to the same little loop and same little tweak and little bit here and little bit there. You have a great ability to listen to a track over and over and over again. What was that like?
I don't know. I was at the moment. Usually, when I'm listening to music, it's at the moment also, and it's just music, Even if it's just your vocals, it's just like it's still music to me, and it's still like something that I want to put together, and I want to hear it, the whole thing as one piece.
Yeah, and for me, once I've pretty much written the song and decided this is what it is and performed it, I want to move on. I want to write the next song. I want to create a new lyric or a new concept or a new album cover. Even I joke that sometimes I start with the album cover and then figure out everything else after that. and you just have the ability to dig in. And so when you're digging in, you're saying it's all music to you. So it doesn't matter if it's a song or if it's just a da 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 that you're tweaking to make it sound like da da da, or is this da da da?
Yeah.
That explains why you don't go insane doing it.
That's why what?
That's why you don't go insane doing it. Like I'd be laying there. Sometimes I'd come home, just lay there on the bed and listen to you doing it, and it was like about 10 minutes later, I gotta get out of the apartment. I gotta go. Thank you so much for your work on this. I can't be here. I'll come back later and hear when it comes together at a higher level or a larger piece for me to listen to. So how did you learn to do that?
I basically learned it just from working on my own material. I spent late nights working on my own material and making it, trying to sound right, making sure that the vocals are all right, and taking the best sounds that I could get, even if I have to listen to it over and over again. It's just, it's just fun.
It definitely it takes a certain person to find it enjoyable. Um, for me, I did editing because I had to of my own stuff, and when I started working with other people, that's when I really realized that I was pushing myself to do it. I wasn't enjoying it. And when I first met you, it was seeing someone who just plain enjoyed it. And I'd come back and you're like, look what I did. I just, I shifted this just a few milliseconds like that. See how that pops? And I go, yeah, it really does. It'd be amazing. You couldn't hear a difference while you were editing it, Tyrone. But once you were done, you go, I can't put my finger on it, but it sounds better.
Yeah.
Now, the down low, I've got some pictures here.
Uh, I was at school and I was bored. Well, not bored, but I wanted to do something else outside of school and studying. And I wanted to meet a whole new circle of friends. And so I looked it up on the computer, all the karaoke places, and there was the down low. And I read about it and I was like, sounds like my kind of place. So I went there, fell in love with it, and the people took me in. Like I had been coming there for years. Oh, she said, oh, where I said I. 'Cause, yeah, I think, oh, Blake. Yeah. 100, yeah, 100 to 150. Yes. Yeah. I had to get up early too, going to school. Sometimes I just get out of class. Yeah. Coming from me or coming from maybe about 6 months.
Okay. So you weren't there all that much longer than me. I mean, before me.
No.
And then once I started going, the download was a regular weekly thing. Then we added the melody. We added Blake's. And before you knew it, we were traveling into San Francisco. I remember there was one time where we ended up in San Francisco after hours and there was no way to get back home. And you found some bus line. You're like, oh no, you just take the 100 bus. And we waited like an hour on a cold street, got this bus. It took us downtown Oakland. Then we had to transfer to somewhere else because BART was shut down. That was it. And it took us like, I don't know, 2-3 hours it seemed to get home and back to Emeryville, and then had to walk all the way back. And so we had quite a lot of adventures, and hard to believe that was 8 to 10 years ago.
Yeah. Time flies.
Now, not only were you producing me, but while you were at school, you were producing your own albums. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Well, I was doing a Christmas album, and I was doing another, just a bunch of songs, a collection of songs that I was going to turn into an album. And it was pretty hectic because I had to do that with all my school material. And yeah, it was just really hard. But I managed to do all my work, and I managed to get all the Christmas stuff that I wanted to do uh, semi semi finished. Um, but other than that, I managed to get a lot of projects done, and I even did a little commercial for Folgers, and I think you have that, and I think we're going to see that later on, aren't we?
We definitely are. Someone said that they couldn't quite hear me clear, so I upped my microphone. Let me know if that improved things. Yeah, so the Say Yes album, the Santa Oki, Santa Claus Karaoke, and the Christmas album all did get finalized and are available on the nevermind.bandcamp.com page. In addition to Tyrone's own work with himself, he did a single version of Happy New Year with me. So that was the Audio Terrorist version. The regular version is on the Christmas album. And then there's a single for the Audio Terrorist Happy New Year with a little dramatic beginning with Tyrone and me playing the dad and reading him a Christmas story. And I know it was a New Year's Eve. What is Old Lang Syne and what it's about? Check those tracks out on Nevermind with a Y .bandcamp.com. All right, we just got the all clear that I'm sounding equal volume to Tyrone. Appreciate that. Thank you, Jeff.
Good.
And welcome, Joe Price. I see that you're out there too.
Hi, Joe.
So we have this going out on Facebook stream, a Facebook watch party, YouTube stream, and Twitch. So if you prefer one of those other platforms, feel free to go there and work there too. Now, when I got to know Tyrone, he was working on all these albums and all these projects. And tell the audience what happened.
Oh, you mean my heart attack?
Oh no, I'm not talking about that. I was talking about the hard drive.
Oh, yeah, I had a bunch of other songs, and one day I was at school and I had plugged in the hard drive, and the computer just shut down, and then all my work just like got erased. So I had to go to Caleb, and he had to help me try to resurrect it, but there was only like clips of songs. I
And
didn't get the actual files to open.
the good news was, some years later, digging through those clips and bits, I found some whole pieces. And because I was always hearing, oh, I've got this album, I'm working on this. And all of a sudden one day it was like stopped. And I'm like, oh God, I got to help him out. So I got a hard drive recovery kit, pulled a bunch of stuff off, and over the years pieced it together. So from that came the Christmas album first. And again, check it out, nevermind.bandcamp.com. And then I got enough pieces for the Say Yes album and started piecing that together, built that up, rearranged it and whatnot. So Say Yes finally got its full release globally about 6 months ago, roughly. So that's out. And I don't know if the Santa Oki got out the larger audience, but at least those two albums. And then since I've been here in Seattle, I've been digging through that pile. And I've got enough material for another album. So more of your songs will see the light of day.
Wow. I probably forgot what they were.
I was going to play some here, but I can't now play the ones that got released because Facebook will censor them. And so I didn't add them here. I'd rather people go to the Bandcamp page and actually listen to the songs there. So if you're wondering why I'm not segueing into one of those songs, that's why. At a future point when that next album isn't released but is finished, then we'll be able to play it pre-release on this show and look forward to having you back for that release. She challenged me once. She said, you got all this music, you got Queer Blue, you got Audio Terrorist. You should do some more conventional songs, something that your parents would want to listen to. And so there it is, the Caleb Brilliant Dreams album. So I ended up writing 10 songs, more straightforward songs, more more commercial rock style songs, and Tyrone edited all the vocals on that. A couple weeks ago, if you listen to this show, I played Way to Somewhere, the remix version for the album, and I mentioned that there's backup vocals, there's guitar, all of that was Tyrone. Tyrone not only is a fantastic singer, good guitar player, and bass player, and keyboardist, and he added a lot of those elements to the Brilliant Dreams album. And then with Queer Blue had put out an EP and then a full album, but still had the beginnings of a third album when they went on hiatus in 2009. And so it was my dream to make sure all of those singles, all those extra tracks came out as singles. So Tyrone also produced those with me. Things That Dreams Are Made Of, Human League cover, One to the Left, What It Means to Share, yes, and Deliverance. And Deliverance was like one of our big live pieces, and it never got on the album. The mix was never right. So Tyrone helped me pull the whole thing apart, remix it from the get-go. And we got a phone call that the remix was interesting down in LA, and that could we do an instrumental and change it in the following ways. We did that. And I think we suddenly got that call, and we were already in the studio, and we worked the entire day because there was a deadline that night to get it out. Worked the entire day, got it out, got it sent to LA, and our contact down there got it to none other than Jerry Moss. If you don't know who Jerry Moss is, if any of us older folks remember seeing the record label called A&M Records. A&M was Herb Albert and Jerry Moss. So literally the half of the ownership of A&M Records got to hear Deliverance and liked it. And he reported back, I really like this song, but I'm thinking of a country song instead. Our song was a little more techno and whatnot. I hadn't done the Caleb stuff at that point, so we didn't have any country songs to send him. And he was looking for a soundtrack for his racehorse. And he decided to go with a country song. But Jerry Moss liked that track. That sang a lot. So we had a lot of those adventures too in the studio of building stuff for sound libraries that kind of didn't take off, and a lot of music is that way. They say the 1% of the 1% are who make it in the music business, and if you only want to make music to be one of those people, you're gambling on a long shot. If you do music because you love doing music and you do it all the time, then sometimes it will strike. If the time is right, the connection is right, then it'll strike. If not, not. That's okay.
True.
So I see one of my roles is not so much as, I'm not trying to be a rock star or this or that, but one thing I see myself as being is a curator of the songs that come out of Audio Terrace, the songs that come out of Queer Blue, the songs that came out of Nevermind, several other of my friends, my friend Eric Wenger. These are creative works I want to make sure are accessible to people. So I release them all on my record label, Asylum Arts, ASYLUMARTS.com, and make sure those get out there. And I still have a laundry list of tracks I want to get out, and a lot of them are yours. So it'll happen. So speaking of a lot of different loose ends and striving to try to get things to people and whatnot, you had the opportunity for a contest, and it was another last minute thing. I think you called me up and I have to have this by 5 o'clock. Let's go. I thought, come on over. We'll shoot the video. We'll do it. And the result of that was this video.
Waking up, his vultures in my cup. Yes, yeah. The best part of waking up me strong. It'll put you in the mood where you all have to sing along. The best part of waking up, the best part of my day is to wake up and smell the Folgers. Y'all gotta love it this way. Gotta have a cup, gotta have a cup.
Well, that was the first ever showing of the Folgers spot for the contest. I think we did that maybe in an hour or something. I'm like, here, throw on this bathrobe, get in the bed. I got the camera. We can do this. So that was pretty darn cool and rapid. And when I was in Emeryville, we were doing stuff like that all the time. And I went from feeling very blocked on projects to completely open up, where there was stuff going on all the time. If I wasn't making a custom karaoke track for some famous artist or my own stuff, we were doing videos like that, or we were editing for the Caleb album and remastering the old Audio Terrace albums, getting all the Queer Blues stuff out. It was pretty cool. For those who would like to hear more of Tyrone, go to Nevermind with a Y rather than an I, .bandcamp.com. That song, I think, is very much in the flavor of the album. You do some more ballady stuff, and you do some more beat-orientated stuff on that album. But it's a real good mix. But I'd say, Tyrone, you have a classic R&B voice.
Yeah.
You're a fan
That's
of
what I grew
R&B.
up with.
There's times I wish I grew up with R&B, and I wonder if I did that, if my voice would have turned out different. Instead, I heard twangy country singers who didn't quite sing in tune, and electronic guys like Gary Newman, and I guess my voice modeled himself after that, and Johnny Cash, and so I'm more of a Lou Reed kind of vocalist, guys. Yeah. Let's see. My cousin Anna Michelle says, very nice to the Folgers piece. Let's see, I'm checking some comments. I can't quite read that. I'm going to go over to YouTube. Some people are getting work done while listening in. That's cool. I like that. So, we've now reached that time of the show called The Mystic... Oh, hold on. Let me do the effect. The Mystic Moment. And Mystic... Ooh. I hit the wrong button. Mystic Moment. I like to talk about, the bigger picture. Kind of getting away from yourself. And last week we talked about hair loss. And this week we're going to talk about, again, something that when you step outside of yourself and you start helping other people, how that gift comes back. And one of those gifts was I started promoting artists, some famous artists, whose songs weren't available as karaoke. And I would message them and say, hey, I'd like to do a karaoke version so that people know that you're out here, because people don't know your work in the karaoke circles. And I got some people that were like, okay, cool, go for it, kid. Some people were like, what is this thing? And within a month, they would have a karaoke song available. And that engaging of people to show them that there's something out there that maybe is in the corner of their eye that they didn't know exist, just like I didn't know the down low and the karaoke scene didn't exist, happens. And when I started doing other people's karaoke, I did that for about a year, and it just did not occur to me to make my own songs as karaoke. And to be frank, it was rather taboo in the karaoke scene to do originals. People try to bring in their track and make a scene out of it, and a lot of it's low quality, and so it got a bad reputation. So I made sure that my collections always were top-notch, and the originals were a professional release. It was music that had been released professionally. It just happened to be that I had written them and worked to produce them. So after doing this for a little while, I think it came to you, Tyrone, right? That was, you started this, right? I had been doing that. You were aware of it. And I was asking you to say, hey, for every track you produce, please give me an instrumental version so I can make karaoke. And then eventually, once I started doing instrumental versions, I could get my music in soundtrack libraries, which was a whole nother branch I didn't even think about. I was just thinking at the time, hey, I'd like to share these songs with friends and my circles out of karaoke. So you had heard all that, and did you then reach out to the folks who shot the documentary?
Yes.
Cool. Well, I thank you for that. I didn't remember exactly how it happened. Miss Coleman, I believe.
Yep. Grace Coleman.
So without further ado, I'm going to show you the complete documentary on karaoke creation by Grace Coleman. There is a place where you can sing your heart's desire without judgment or fear. A place where everyone's a star. I ran out of songs to do. And then I started hitting YouTube and finding instrumental versions of some of my favorite artists that are very obscure, and I started putting lyrics to that first. I said, well, wait a minute, if I'm doing this for Gary Newman, I could be doing this for myself.
Yeah.
Starring Tyrone Stanford and Caleb Duarte. Yeah. Awesome.
I'm Tyrone Stanford. Basically, I started like 20 years ago or so, way back in San Francisco. The first club that I sung at was called Pier Street Annex. I won a trip to Hawaii, which I gave to my parents. So that was cool. And then that's what got me hooked, and I have been doing it ever since.
My name's Caleb, and in the karaoke scene, I go by Mr. K. I discovered karaoke quite by accident. When I first found karaoke, I have to say, a low opinion of it. I was like, oh, karaoke, that's where people sing really bad.
Yeah, actually, I'm at a place called The Down Low, which is shut down now. But that was where we originally met. We started talking music and talking about songs. And then once we really started talking about music, I found out that he recorded, and he had his own home studio. Like, I always wanted to create a CD and have karaoke files on there. They say that karaoke is the next best thing to live performance, and it is. You may not have the backing band, but you have the music, and then you have this person that's representing the lead.
The karaoke crowd is very, very receptive, and it doesn't take much more of a tipping point to simply get my own original stuff together. Yeah, let's just take it from the top. This is my studio, and I've been running for a number of years. So we start off with Acid Pro and build a series of loops. And then once we have the music that we want, check it out. Tie black leather, color cuffs, take you out and tie you up. So once I built all the loops and had the fundamental track, and I've got, recorded my lyric idea, we bring that together and put it all in Pro Tools, and then Tyrone is able to do the vocal editing recording, mixing, adding plugins. Once that work is done, we're able to go into this karaoke making application and paste in all the lyrics, paste in the vocal version, and then I'm able to tap and sync up all the vocal pieces so that in the final karaoke it's going to play the lyrics exactly in time. So you have the full music production, karaoke production, rehearsal, and performance enabled in just a few pieces of software. And people start tapping their toes and bopping their head. You go, great. I didn't have to rent a van, haul all the gear, put the band together, rehearse to have this moment.
Take you to the heights and passion. Do anything you want with me. Jerk me up and set me
That's amazing.
Forget who you used to be, become who you are. When you're in the city, baby, everyone's a star. Are you feeling lonely? Do you want to dance? When you're in the city, she'll give you the chance.
Some people, that's all they want to do. They want to at least sing one song. They want to make one song.
You have this little gem
Yeah.
that you can now go out and perform this fantastic song live. It seems like it's a fundamental location for people to find out about you as an artist.
So that's the documentary, and that whole model, the fact that Steve Slate, what was his name again? It was in the credit. The KJ at the Slate Bar, DJ Purple, that was his name. And he's still well, until this coronavirus thing broke out, he's still doing it. He's a saxophone player, so he loves any opportunity to play saxophone. So he'll be caging songs, and then he gets up in this spacesuit and starts improvising jazz and saxophone parts to what you're doing, which was pretty cool. And that started becoming, I started finding that crowd, that in-between crowd. I can't remember the name of the bar. I think it was with the Slate Bar allowed us to shoot there and allowed us to play the custom karaoke, because I think you talked to DJ Purple and convinced him that this would be good to promote his night. There was another place, maybe I went with Johnny Rendon there, Yeah, it was Johnny Rendon that introduced me. And again, there was a saxophone player and there were instrument players. And suddenly we're doing karaoke, but I'm doing like a David Bowie song with a live saxophone player. And it really blurred the lines between what we usually think of karaoke as and what was possible. And that was very exciting to me. As an artist, I've always tried to work on the edge of things. I think it's a little boring to just repeat what people have already done. So why not look at where the edge between one thing ends and where another thing begins? For those that know my creative history, know that there's a lot of that in the background. And that led me to start touring, not with a band, not even with a laptop. I started doing all my tours every year, what I called the Spartan tours, where with me, some CDs, a USB stick, and I sang Boston and Paris and Germany and so England, France, Ireland, Germany, East Coast, and it was great. Suddenly I could go on a tour and present my songs wherever I wanted with the least amount of effort. Now, when I say least amount of effort, it still took hours. When everybody was having fun running in the sun, I was in the studio mastering those for karaoke, building, a whole day to build a single song, putting them on CDs. It's a lot of work still. And that it opened up a door for me to be able to do that. So thank you for all your work on that, making that happen. And when you reached out to Grace and she made the documentary, it really made the whole thing more real. To have a third party chiming in and saying, this is really cool. I want to, spend time and money and effort to document what you guys are doing. I'm going to check in with the chats here. Let's see. I closed the door. It's bloody hot in here, which revealed the storage box. My wife is always telling me, please close the door so you're not showing the world your storage box. Folks, I'm showing you my storage box. Let's see. All right, let's see here in the comments on YouTube. I can't read it on the screen there. I need to go back over to Facebook. Is it nice? My cousin said my husband was really good with karaoke. And he did some contests. And I know you did contests at karaoke. I forgot all about the contests because I was never a contender. I was always the artsy guy doing obscure, rare stuff. I didn't do much mainstream stuff, but there were some serious contests out there. Wow. I didn't know about that. Huh. I knew the contest had, like who's the winner, maybe some cash. I didn't know vacations were being handed out. Maybe I would have done some more mainstream songs. I'd be willing to sell my artistic soul for a trip to Hawaii. Oh yeah. So I always slaughter people's names, so it's either Dina or Deanna, and I know you're my cousin, and I should know better, but I knew you as Michelle, so, and Michelle's still in your name, so Michelle was saying that the contests were, were cool, you could make money and whatnot, and people don't realize that. It's kind of like what's happened with gaming, like video gaming, how now there's like an Olympic sport of video gaming. So my question, does anybody know if there's an Olympic sport of karaoke yet? That'd be pretty cool. That makes sense. Doesn't Sweden hold the Euro? I forget the name. Euro something contest every year. It's like what made ABBA big and all sorts of bands. Oh, I'm getting some stories here in the comments from Michelle. She said that's another show. So yeah, maybe Michelle, we have you on and as a future guest, and you can tell me about your adventures in karaoke land. It's certainly a huge world. So we're coming up on our hour, and after party will start. I think I'm going to switch us to after party right now because we were already kind of talking after party. For those people who shut up and have tight scheduling to get back to Mother's Day, I thank you so much for joining myself and Tyrone as we reminisce about our karaoke years, the years of him making his albums and resurrecting my albums and moving me to my next level of career. The after party is a nice little time where we can have more conversation, deeper conversations about stuff and share stuff. So having moved right into rapidly into after party, what the heck was I talking about? The karaoke scene. So yeah, we created karaoke scenes. It was like once a week places that we were going to, and then Nick's Lounge happened. You know, I can't remember who alerted me that it was happening, but I heard that there was a new venue on a Monday and that they weren't sure about karaoke. The owner wanted it to be a jazz bar. And I just called Tyrone and all the heavy hitters. I said, get down here. And he didn't know what hit him. And within a matter of months, that bar was 7 days a week karaoke. From this little idea of like, well, I'll make a little one night thing. He did continue to do the jazz trio and do live standards. For those that aren't in the music lingo, standards are all your like Frank Sinatra tunes and stuff. You know, songs that Frank Sinatra covered. Because remember, Frank Sinatra was a cover tunes artist. He was an original artist. And yeah, so we would do that on Sunday, and then some of us would get to sing with a live band there. And once a month, even though the whole month was 100% karaoke now, once a month he had to honor a poetry reading group from 7 to 9 once a month on a Saturday. And since it was so regular that karaoke was always happening, all the karaoke people would show up and there would be this poetry jam going. And the poetry jam didn't like the karaoke people, and the karaoke people didn't like the poetry jam. And it led to some infraction where people threw glasses at each other, and it was a bit like, what's the East Side Story? West Side Story? West Side Story. West Side Story. Imagine West Side Story between poets and karaoke singers. That's kind of how that went down. But then again, now karaoke, as we know it, has come to an end. Everybody's sheltering in place. All the venues are shut down, trying to figure out how to pay their mortgages or how to pay their property taxes. I know here in Seattle, venues were already being forced to shut down by Amazon's expansion and other companies' expansions. And a lot of these venues downtown Seattle just couldn't afford to pay anything anymore. Constantine Dow, who is I always want to call him Chancellor. I don't know what I can't forget what his real title is. He grew up in the grunge scene, and now he's the bigwig politician. So he was using all the historical landmark laws to try to preserve these clubs and keep them open for live bands. And there was an initiative was launched like 2 months before COVID really hit, and they're all trying to figure out what to do. So I imagine the whole karaoke scene just kind of ended. I've not been too involved in it the last several years, so I just gave a shout out to everybody and hope they're doing okay. Hearing some beeps. Sharon says Caleb and Tyrone video birthday parties. I don't know that any exist. It's funny because we now walk around with our Android phones, our Apple phones, our smartphones, and we're shooting video and photographs all the time. And I forget that when Tyrone and I started doing karaoke, there wasn't that. I mean, people could kind of do it, but it wasn't as pervasive as it is now. Now it's like, if you and I were shooting video, I don't know. I'd be interested in the comments. How often do you shoot a video clip? Like, we were out and walking on some wetlands, and I immediately started videotaping a couple ducks diving and whatnot, and then a big drake came over and scared them out of the water, and they flew above us. Yeah, and that was all caught on video because it's just there in my pocket. So I look back and I think about all these incredible performances of yours, Tyrone, that are in my head, and all these magic moments, but they are in living memory. They're not documented as far as I know. You still in touch with B-Rock? He popped up on my Facebook a year ago or something, but lots happened. So I'd love to be in touch with him. And if you reach out to him and we find more video footage, and especially if it's a rare song, again, if it's a mainstream song, if we show the footage, you guys have to tune in live to see it, because the replay will have it removed. But the live broadcast, the live stream, you'll be able to hear it. So if you can get some material, we can have a Tyrone episode 2 where we actually show people your performances. That would be very cool. Now, you are retired from the karaoke scene and singing. Is that correct? So that's all the more reason why I want to get all your albums out. That's your legacy. And if you find those videos either on YouTube or in other folks, pretty much anything that gets posted on the internet, I can put into the show. So just let me know where the links are, and I'll go grab the content, put it in the next episode, and we'll do an episode maybe focus on our karaoke adventures in a few months. I would say mine, there were a couple captures of karaoke, but it was always my single worst vocal night that got on the internet. There were times my voice was fantastic and really nailed it. None of those were videotaped, and a few people videotaped the really horrible moments where I tried a song that just wasn't for my voice. And so no karaoke of me is going to be seen ever. That's true. I remember, I think one of the ones that we did really well at first was Come Together as a duet, where we would trade off sections and do a call and response. People were really creative. They didn't just reproduce the song as is. Some people did alternate versions. Some people just took another approach to how they sang it as a group. And then we had the thing called kamikaze karaoke, and that's where someone picked a song for you. It might be a female song in a completely wrong key for you, and you got up there and did it. And the one kamikaze karaoke I'll never forget was at Nick's Lounge. Al was KJing, for those that aren't in the know. KJ, karaoke DJ, was KJing, and he goes, "You're up." I'm like, "What song?" And he goes, "You'll see." And it was Pony. I don't know who the artist is. Like, get on it. Genuine Pony. I'm like, okay. I'm like, you're going to put me on the spot? I'm going to make this song mine. That's good times. And that community, everybody loved singing. And there were folks that I would say I was on the middle to middle weaker spectrum, and there's incredibly strong voices. We had professional singers. The next night we're going to sing at Yoshi's, and we're just practicing with friends the day before. And one of our dear friends, who I wish got to join this session, but doesn't look like she got to, is Dina. And Dina was not born with that lucky voice. She's someone who struggles with voice and yet has incredible, incredible passion. And that's the moment when I realized it didn't matter. It didn't matter if I'm singing out of key. It didn't matter if I wasn't the world's greatest singer. But if I was up there worried about singing well, people aren't going to like it. Nobody's going to enjoy themselves because I'm not enjoying myself. But if I got up there, enjoyed myself, did the best job I could, and made it mine in my style, cool. That's all that matters. And Dina taught me that, watching her. And she pounded on vocals for years, started taking vocal lessons, and she developed her style. And I remember once, there were all this range of singing talent at Nick's performing, and a gal sitting next to me said, "Hey, who is she? Out of everybody, she's the most amazing person here." That was a very cool lesson to get. Now I don't worry about it. Just do it. So that's a tip to everybody out there that's afraid of singing, but you love to sing. Just do it. Singing, for me personally, when I sing, I'm the happiest I am in my life. So why should I rob myself of that because I missed a note or someone doesn't like my voice? Just keep doing it. You'll find some people like your voice. A lot of people, Johnny Cash, Lou Reed, Tom Petty, these are not pretty voices. But they all have a character of their own and are very special. So find your own special voice. That's my challenge to each one of you. Chris, it was the Eurovision Song Contest that happens in Sweden that launched ABBA with their song Waterloo. That's why I knew about Eurovision, because I was a big ABBA fan when I was growing up. Thank you for that, Chris. And, Joe Price. Yeah, fond memories of Nick's. Joe showed up to Nick's and watched our shenanigans. And for those that don't know Joe Price, I should do an episode. Joe, will you be on Sunday Live and tell your stories? You have a lot of incredible stories. So I'll put that out there. There's some openings coming up in June, late June, early July, and I'd love to have you tell your stories. Quick note about Joe. 2 years ago, I was standing outside of my apartment where there's a restaurant, and Joe was there with me, and a woman stopped on the sidewalk and said, "Now there's a handsome man." And she wasn't pointing at me. It was Joe. Joe is involved in the motorcycle groups around the Bay Area and blah, 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 blah. See, I knew if I talked about him, I'd wear him down. He says, "Oh, I guess." All right, Joe, if you could comment, I should say, send me a messenger comment to confirm, and we'll negotiate a date and get you on the calendar. Well, that's all I had prepared at 3 a.m. this morning. Takes about 4 hours to set up one show, and I got a second win last night and got this show set up. Originally, Dan Wyman, my professor at university who got me into all this, music recording, video production, website stuff, multimedia, as we used to call it, he was going to be on the show, but a tree fell on their power line, and they're up in Santa Cruz Mountains. So he is cut off from the internet until next weekend. So hopefully we will have flipped Tyrone, which we originally had last week, and Dan. We just did a schedule flip, and Dan is going to, fingers crossed, be on next week's episode. For those that don't know about Dan, folks wonder why I make a lot of spooky music. Well, okay, it's not just Dan, but it was very funny and ironic that my biggest mentor in my life my career, was a ghostwriter on horror films. And he did several pretty famous films that you've seen and you've heard his work, but you never saw his name. It wasn't until 1991 or 2 that his name got put on a film that he did the music for, and that was Lawnmower Man. If Lawnmower Man exists out there in the theatrical release, watch that. Please do not watch the director's cut. It's not an improved version. It's where the director got taken off the editing floor because his movie was too silly, and some really great editors got in there and made a fantastic film. It went to the theater. It was a hit, and then director's cuts were popular, and because it was a hit, he thought he had the pull to put all the terrible stuff back into the film, and so the director's edit that went out on home video is absolutely dreadful. You don't need the chimpanzee. The chimpanzee just cut him out of the movie. But Lawnmower Man. So Dan will be here talking about Lawnmower Man. His early days, he did a lot of ghostwriting, not only for film, but for various famous songs that you know are actually Dan playing that keyboard part, Dan playing those synthesizers. Ever heard a little song called I Feel Loved? Donna Summer sang on, and Georgia Moroder produced. Dan wrote the electronic stuff for that. And that gives you an idea of the caliber that Dan is. And when I met him, he was a humble professor. It was like, anybody here watch Doctor Who? They have these ideas, these aliens that are like, I don't know, they're kind of like upper class, blah, 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 blah. But a bunch of them just decide they don't want the whole trappings, so they go become a lowly English professor and hide out and pretend to be human. That's how I see Dan. He did incredible work in the industry in LA and decided for various reasons that it was time, and he went away and became a humble professor at San Jose State and saved people like me from not really knowing what they were doing or where they were going, and brought us under his wing and built us a future. So do check out the show next Sunday, Sunday Live, 5 o'clock. As usual, there'll be a pre-roll for about 20 minutes before the show. That's so we get all set up. But if you chat during that time, I'll chat back. And then at 5 o'clock, we go live with our intro song, Find My Way. And let me know if I should be changing up the intro song each episode, if you think, or if I should keep it as Find My Way, so it's like the song, the theme. And we'll launch into an episode either with Dan, or if Dan's internet's still down, I'll probably pull in Stefan Aronson, the founder of Balanced Breakfast, a music community, a global music community that he has created starting in San Francisco. And he then built other chapters around, and then I became a part of a chapter, and then now run the Seattle chapter up here. So he's a great guy if you're interested in marketing, internet marketing, and community building. So those are some of the guests that are coming up in future episodes. I want to thank you, Tyrone, for being on this episode. It's been a while since we've gotten the chance to chat, and you're absolutely welcome, man. And reach out to me later this week. I'd love to see if you track down those extra material and songs and stuff, and that we get those shared with people, because your work is really wonderful, and I would hate for it to be forgotten. All right, man. You have a great one. Thank you, everybody, for staying for the after party, and for tuning in for the chat with Tyrone. And look forward to seeing you next week.